The following is a presentation of the Eagles Sports Network.
Hello and welcome into episode 15 of Mossy Creek Conversations. It's a blast from the past today. I'm the voice of the Eagles, Adam Cavalier. Happy to welcome in former Carson-Newman head men's and women's soccer coach and the Sun Belt Conference Coach of the Year, the head coach of the South Alabama Jaguars, Richard Moodie. Richard, thanks so much for taking some time out of your recruiting season after an NCAA tournament run for the Jags and joining us here on our podcast.
No, appreciate you having me. Appreciate it.
What a time. We might as well just rebrand this one the Richard Moodie Show. A throwback to those legendary YouTube videos from circa 2012, 2013. One, how thrilled are you that those didn't cost you a job at the Division I level?
Those were shocking videos. Those were. Listen, it's funny. It's a little bit of fun, if anything. But those were crazy, and I don't know where Kenny Hewitt is, but I think he's started on a few. But he might be straight. I don't know where he is right now, but no, those. I don't know. I think we were just trying to have a little bit of fun with it and make it silly, and we did that. But it was far from professional, I think. But those are still on the internet, probably haunting me. We should probably try to take those down.
Nah, we'll leave them up. We'll leave this one up.
A little bit
longer. You look at your time as native of Scotland, came over to the States in 2002 to start playing soccer for Carson-Newman. Take me back to the early part of this millennium and your experiences and why you picked a little tiny school in Jefferson City, Tennessee, all the way from across the pond.
Well, listen, that's a really good question, right? And I'll try not to bore anybody that does try to listen to this, but back in the early 2000s when those agencies started looking to bring kids over and help with scholarships, and I got linked up with a man by the name of Andrew Keane, who was starting a company, First Point USA, to help kids from the UK, specifically Scotland at the time, venture across the pond on a soccer scholarship. And so back in those days, the internet wasn't as accessible as it is today. In fact, so much so that, if somebody wanted to use the house phone, that you had to get back off the internet so somebody could use the house phone. Those are the days that people don't remember. But I really didn't know much about Carson-Newman. It basically was just the best offer at the right time. And for me, it was a kind of leap of faith to just try and go to a school that I hadn't ever been to. I had never been to America at that point in my life. And so to go to Jefferson City, Tennessee is the first place, and the big lights of Jefferson City, it was breathtaking. But no, it's at that point, it was kind of just the right time and the right feel. The coach then, Alan Vitale, who should be the guy on the call and not Richard Moodie, but Alan Vitale, he was the one that believed in me and gave me the opportunity to come over, and still keep in touch with him to this day. A huge mentor in my life, and truthfully, it was the right decision in the end for sure. And say what you want, things happen for a reason, whatever. But for me, I was where I was meant to be when I was meant to be there, and the people that I came into contact with in my time at Carson-Newman are friends for life, and yeah, I've cultivated me and helped me mature and grow up, and and be where I'm at today.
I remember when you left Carson-Newman as a coach to head to South Alabama in I think it was December of 2016. You said at the time Carson-Newman is Richard Moodie, meaning that this place had helped shape and form you. How true is that statement 5 years later?
Yeah, no, it is. I still think about it every day. It was the hardest thing that I've ever had to do, and it's not so much that you look back on it and you're like I had the best memories, and I couldn't stay there forever. What I realized at the time as well is when you have that emotional attachment to a place, then people just keep asking you to do more things for that place for the same amount of money. And I was like, right, hold on, this isn't a healthy relationship. But honestly, for me, it was the people that I've come into contact. Still, even every now and again, I get an email from someone from Carson-Newman just reaching out and, hey, I saw you guys playing and hope you're doing well. And that's I mean, that's real. Like that's like people say that, like, you know, oh yeah, we keep in touch. I mean, genuinely, like people, Linda Hill in the registrar's office, teachers in the education department when I was doing my master's there, they all reach out and just have chat and talk and check on you and see how things are going. And yeah, Carson-Newman's a special place. And you know, by no means am I on here to advocate for people to go to, but I'm telling you, no, it's for me. I would send my kids to Carson-Newman 100%. I just think it's a great place, special place, and yeah, I met my wife there. We had a family. I mean, we are
clearly made a difference in your life. Clearly made a difference in your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's go through your playing career. Carson-Newman men's soccer, 2002. When you get there, an okay program through the years. It had a fair amount of success, but nothing crazy. But then things really started to blossom. 3 straight SAC regular season titles, an appearance in the Elite Eight at the NCAA tournament in your junior year. What made you sense that things were shifting toward an elite direction at a national level?
Just Alan Vital, you know, the players we were recruiting, the people we were bringing in, the way we were being coached, you could see it was just different to anybody else. And I don't want to say that he was ahead of his time, but his ideas were maybe a little bit more progressive than most. And certainly, you know, we were a dominant force just through the players he was able to recruit, the camaraderie that we had as a group. I thought that he got it spot on. We had a really special group of guys that cared for each other, fought for each other, and yeah, and at the front of it all, we had a coach that knew what he was doing, that was clued in, and again, yeah, just people in the right place at the right time, and it all came to fruition.
Much of that team's success, or those teams' success, was predicated on defense. You were a first-team all-defensive, all-region defender in 2005, part of a back line with Tyler Baldock, who would go down as a 3-time All-American in goal, now a goalkeeper's coach at Simon Fraser. What was the linchpin of the success from what you guys did defensively? I mean, multiple, like 450-plus minute shutout streaks that you put together.
Hey, Tyler Baldock's racked up on those awards now with all those lads in front of him. Never conceded a shot. Tyler was sleeping during one game. He took a nap during one game. He had to wake up for half-time, and then he went back again. And, you know, listen, Tyler Baldock was legitimately, the best goalkeeper in Division 2 soccer. And I think, you know, individually, player for player, yeah, I thought we had a special team. But again, just the way we were coached, we defended as a unit. It was 11 players behind the ball, working hard, and everybody bought into that idea and that concept. And as soon as you guys start having a bit of success with something, that's when you get the buy-in from the players. And it just worked time after time after time, and the way we played and how effective we could be on the counter-attack. And you know, for anybody that watches soccer or football, and with the Euros, you know, that can be a kind of perceived as a negative kind of tactic, being very defensive minded, but again, he sold it in such a positive way that we all bought into it, and we were all so positive and believing in the tactics. So yeah, they could be perceived as negative in today's world of football, but at the time there was such a positive spin on it, and he made us believe that this is what could win championships, and sure enough it did, you know.
It's crazy to hear that, and yet the 2004 team, I can't remember the exact tally, but that's the all-time leading scoring team in Carson-Newman history. So, yeah, you have that defensive mindset, but we're able to put the ball in the back of the net frequently.
Yeah, no, and again, I think that came down to just the kind of the playing style and then the players that we were able to add. I mean, it was remarkable that we got so much of the talent that we did to Mossy Creek. You know, I mean, it was crazy. Players coming from all over the world. But again, I think when they got there, they realised that the programme was bigger than every individual in it, and it was a collective effort every game. And so, you know, I couldn't even tell you who was scoring the goals that year. I couldn't tell you, because we were just so focused on each other and working hard, and it was always about trying to win for the team and do better for Carson-Newman, and there was never anybody trying to take the spotlight off each other, you know.
2002, a 5-win team, 5-11-1, and then immediately turned it around your sophomore year in 2003 and improved by 9 wins, won the regular season title, and made a run in the NCAA tournament. Was there a game that year that you can recall where you felt that the winds were shifting in Carson-Newman's favor?
19 years ago.
Yeah,
I can't remember what I had for breakfast 10 minutes ago, but I always remember, I tell you which one stands out, because they went on to become Division 1 outfit, but Presbyterian. We would always go to Presbyterian, and Presbyterian were the dominant force in the South Atlantic Conference. And then I remember beating Presbyterian, and then us at Presbyterian, and then I was realizing that like the Bradley Cobbs, I think Brad Cobbs scored like 2 or 3 goals, maybe even that day. You need to check my stats on that. But
it was a 1-0 win, so I don't.
He never scored. So, but I remember there was a time we beat them at Presbyterian. It might have been years later. We beat them maybe 3-2 or whatever. I don't know. But I remember those games getting closer and closer. And when we beat Presbyterian, then I realized, right, wait a minute. That was a massive upset. And then, of course, we were competing week in and week out. And so that was the Presbyterian were the dominant force at the time. And once we were able to win those games, or at least keep close or stay close in those games, that's when I realized the momentum shifting.
It's interesting that sticks out to you, too, because that was the game after you started 1-3-1 that year. We're coming off of a 3-4 loss, or a 4-3 loss at Lees-McRae. And then that win over Presbyterian kicked off a string of 5 straight, and you scored at least 4 goals in 4 of those 5, Presbyterian being the lone exception. Lost at Tusculum, and then didn't lose again until you played number 3 Catawba in the SAC tournament. So crazy that is, I mean, that genuinely did kick things off after a 1-3-1 start.
That 4-3 loss to Lees-McRae, was that at Carson-Newman?
It was.
I think I gave away the penalty for us to lose that game. I genuinely think I did. I genuinely did. I remember that one as well. I don't remember that one.
What a recovery then.
Amazing. I got all my stuff together real quick after that game. I might not have even played in the Presbyterian game, maybe. But, anyway.
Well, 73 caps, 59 starts. I mean, those numbers are still top 5 all time.
That's not bad. I'll take it.
In Carson-Newman history. 6 goals as a defender. Is there a brace that sticks out to you from your career as a player?
No, there's not. Did I have one?
You had 6 goals in your career.
Yeah, I don't. I don't remember really any of them. Honestly, it's all. And maybe that says a lot. I just run into the box and the ball just hits me, goes in. I don't know, but I don't remember any goals. None of them stick out. None of them whatsoever. Or
they just off corners and you're getting a knock and it's just taking the deflection.
I'd listen. A lot of it would have to have done with set pieces. A lot of it would have to have done with set pieces. There's no way Alan would have let me cross the halfway line without it being a set piece. So, but it's funny, we need to see if we can't crank out the old VHS players and see if we can't get some of the archives going. But that tells a time as well. Like we were doing all our video footage on VHS at the point. It was a transition from VHS to DVD. So. Game footage was hard to come by, but I don't remember scoring any goals, if I'm being honest with you. So,
you make the transition after 2006 to be an assistant for Alan. Was that a no-brainer move for you?
Yeah, no, that was one of those where throughout my 4 years at Carson-Newman, I remember walking into his office and just asking him, all you do is coach us, right? And he was like, yeah, why? What do you think I'm doing? I'm like, well, no, I'm just making sure, like, all you do is coach us during the day and that's it. And he was just like, yeah, that's what we do in all the paperwork. I was like, oh, okay. So there's this curiosity of, like, just trying to coach in a collegiate game because there was nothing to compare to that in Scotland. We don't have university-sponsored athletics. We do, but nobody knows about them, and it's not as well as funded as what it is here in America. And so, yeah, no, I just always remember being curious about coaching and there was a fascination. And of course, I think that speaks volumes for Alan as well, because, you get around a mentor like that and you start listening to how he coaches and watching how he coaches, and then you're like, right, wait a minute here, like something's different about this guy. And so I always felt like, yeah, did I want to get into coaching? Yeah, but why? Well, because I was, around Alan, and he was such a great mentor. And at that time as well, Phil McNamara was a women's coach, who is also a legend and somebody that should be on this. But Phil McNamara was also somebody that I was just, looking at, watching, and trying to steal ideas all the time. So, I mean, there I was around two, arguably the best coaches in the SAC at the time, and just stealing ideas and watching and trying to understand how, and both very different in their approach to the game. But yeah, there was no doubt about it. I wanted to get involved a little bit more, become a GA, do masters. Also meant staying in America for a little bit longer, which I felt like at that time I wasn't ready to go home. So yeah, all added up.
How would you now, after being in this coaching profession for a decade and a half, how would you have coached yourself as a player?
Oh, I'd have kicked myself out of practice a lot of times. I'm sure I would have. I don't know. I never felt like I was a hard player to coach. I think I just didn't. This is what it's hard when I was coaching the men and the women at Carson-Newman, and people are like, well, what's the biggest difference? Like, the girls listen. Guys, we just know better. Guys, we know all. We know it all. We know more than our coaches. There's nothing that our coach could have told us we didn't already know. Even if we didn't know, we would have said that. So I think that Alan did a great job with managing us all individually and not letting egos get out of control. But yeah, I think he was how would I have managed myself? Well, I probably wouldn't have known how, but Alan did, and he knew how to manage all of us together. And so, I'd have probably kicked myself out of practice a few times. I'd have certainly cracked down on the old grades and said that I needed to do better in the classroom. But yeah, no, it's like I said, Alan handled this perfectly, and I've learned a lot from that to take on now to manage individuals at the Division I level.
I mean, you talk about kicking yourself out of practice. I think you should have done something when you made this hairstyle choice.
No, don't you dare.
Oh,
if you're going to bring it up on the screen here.
I am absolutely.
Listen, hey, you know what? Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, that right there. I mean, what were you thinking? What were you thinking when you were playing for the Columbus Crew and you elect to go with the frosted tips?
So, listen, that picture actually came up in my interview here at South Alabama. Right at the end of it, my boss now, Dr. Joe Lerdman, he had gone through. It was meant to be a 30-minute meeting. It lasted 10 minutes, and then at the end, he showed me this picture, and I thought, for sure, I'm not getting this job then. So, but no, listen, Backstreet Boys were big at the time. People are forgetting this. Like, that's all.
So you were trying to go for the Nick Carter look.
Listen, Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, all those guys. Eminem was big. David Beckham was on the scene dyeing his hair. It was a thing to do. But listen, here's what I would say to people, the 5 or 6 people that listen to this, you being one of them. Where were my friends during that time? Where were my real friends? Who were the people there saying, look, you shouldn't do that to your hair? This has got nothing to do with coaching. This has to do with people. My friends have let me down there. They've made me believe that 1, that was okay to do, 2, that it actually looked good, and then 3, they still hung out with me in public. But now I realise, like, it was just so they would all feel better about themselves. So yeah, to anybody in my graduating class who didn't say anything, I appreciate it.
That's the photo.
There you go. Live and learn, huh?
Learn. I mean, what? 14 years later, that's the 4th image that shows up when you Google Richard Moodie soccer.
Well, listen, it's a great picture, and people may not even recognize me from it. So,
and let's face it highlights an accomplishment for you.
Highlights are very good. I like the play on words there. Highlights and accomplishment. Very good.
Yeah, thank you. Cincinnati Kings spent some time playing professionally in the U.S. and got called up to the Columbus Crew. Was that something that you set out to achieve, or was it just a natural progression post-college life?
I think when I started the GA, then I was always curious about still playing and then what opportunities would present themselves. So I knew I started my GA, then I was going to figure out what what opportunities would present themselves. And so, of course, during that first year of being a GA, I was like, right, I'll try out for a few teams. And sure enough, I managed to make Cincinnati Kings, which is USL Division 2 at the time, which is it's probably more semi-pro than it is pro. And again, listen, I read the book Outliers, and I'm a firm believer being in the right place at the right time and everything thereafter that can come out of it. And if somebody had said, right, you could be playing you get your first start for your professional debut and you fracture your ankle, which would then lead to you going on loan to a Columbus Crew, would you do it? You know, and you're like, you just didn't know, you couldn't write it. And so, I mean, I just remember playing in my first game and it got to halftime or 0-0, and my coach was like, hey, somebody needs to go in and set the tone here. And I thought, right, well, I'll go and set the tone. And I went into a tackle, like a reckless tackle, like people used to see me do at Carson-Newman, and fractured my ankle, and now I'm off. And then to get back, I got the opportunity to go to Columbus Crew, which at the time was a feeder team, and it was just to get minutes and to help. And so I just really, really lucky, you know, and I know fracturing your ankle, really lucky, but the way everything played out, it all fell into place for me. And it's not that I didn't work hard and I didn't earn it. Like, I felt like I deserved the opportunity to do all those things, but I wasn't never the best player on our team. I played at a higher level than players that were better than me at Carson-Newman, you know, but for me, it was just that the work ethic and I would pride myself on that, trying to be fit and healthy and whatever else. And so I think the Cincinnati Kings deal that came off of that. And then, of course, going to Columbus, it was just because I got injured and I had the opportunity to get some minutes.
After you finished your assistant coaching stop at Carson-Newman, you went over to Morristown East and coached high school ball. What was the difference, college to high school?
Listen, the experience of being a teacher was one that I'll cherish forever. In fact, I just renewed my teacher's license the other day, just in case I have to fall back into teaching. The fascination of learning how people learn was always there. I was always intrigued how the people learn, how the people, you know, understand, comprehend, retain. And so the education standpoint was great from that. But then the college, the soccer side of it was dreadful. I mean, it was, and I say that with all due respect. I mean, my first training session with the girls, I showed up and had a girl show up with a pair of jean shorts and a Kenny Chesney t-shirt on. And I was just like, what am I doing here? But that was my first job coaching, you know. It was like really outside of the GA position. And so, you know, I took it and I worked with the kids and we tried to create a professional environment and we did a lot of good things, and the program was decent in the end. But the biggest difference is obvious that you can select the players that come and play for you at college and you couldn't in high school. And of course, such is the dynamics of Morristown, which is totally changed now. But I was coaching in a club on the west side who all went to the west side of town, Morristown West. And then I was teaching on the east side. And so when we played high schools, I was playing against all the kids that I would coach in the club season. So I was basically coaching against myself. But during that time, you know, I coached players like Adam Thomas, Daniel Zett, who was at Morristown West. I was coaching against them. So all those kids were there when I was coaching, who then came on to play at Carson-Newman. So again, but yeah, the teaching thing was nice. The coaching part was a challenge, to say the least, but helped me learn and grow.
I want to focus on that teaching part, and I think that's very interesting to hear, especially given the nature of coaches that have come through Carson-Newman. It feels less like they're coaches and more like they're educators. How much do you feel that applies to you?
Yeah, no, I think you got to, I'd say, yeah. And again, I think that speaks volumes to the education department at Carson-Newman too. Like, I just feel like the approach to education was more so like that what's the right word for it? I don't know if exploratory, but for me, it was, you were just exploring people and their ways of thinking and how they got to where they got to and their understanding of things. And I think that certainly helped me better understand that it's not always a one-size-fits-all, because I'm very much like that. And if I see something one way, it's only that way. And I have a hard time figuring out how you got to your answer. It could be the same answer, but if you did it a different way, I would have a hard time understanding that or even accepting that. And so I think it helped me adjust in those ways and helped me to relate better to my players and again, understanding now that everyone learns differently. And you know, for me, that's what makes a team, and everyone's so different. And rather than trying to shape everybody one way, just trying to understand and how you can help people maximize potential, I think's the key.
2011, you get the phone call from David Barker to come back and be the head coach of your alma mater. Break down that decision.
I'd been offered a few jobs before that, actually, and for whatever reason, I turned them down to stay at Morristown East, and I'd been in the running for, I could have ended up at Mars Hill at one point. I almost ended up at Tusculum. I was offered to be the head coach at the University of Cumberlands in Williamsburg, Kentucky. And so all these other jobs had kind of presented themselves, but for whatever reason, I just felt like it wasn't the right job. And I didn't know anything about Alan wanting to leave. And so, of course, when Alan left, I had called him. And in fact, funny before that, because Phil had left the year before and I applied for the women's job and never got it and hired Carol. Well, the men's job came open, and I remember when Alan left, I called Alan to ask for permission to apply for the job, because I was just like, because this guy had been there so long and I didn't want him to feel like, I don't know what was going through my head, to be honest with you. So I called him and he said, yeah, sure, you should go. And so, of course, when I applied, I still felt like at the time it would have been a far fetch from reality to actually get offered the job. But David Barger, I'm grateful that he gave me the chance and the opportunity to work at my alma mater and kickstart my coaching career. I mean, that again says a lot for Carson-Newman, that they want to hire their own people and bring their own people in, that means the world to me. And it was an amazing opportunity. And as soon as I got offered that one, there was no turning back. I was definitely going to do it. Which again, funnily enough, I took a pay cut from being a teacher to be a head coach, but I had so much belief in Carson-Newman and my own ability to be a coach. I was just like, yeah, we're going to do it.
Was there a moment that, not necessarily a wake-up call, but that it was the moment that you felt, okay, I'm a head coach now at a college level and things are a little bit different?
Yeah, no, I think it was the day after the interview and the day after I got offered the job, and I was just sat there coaching my little club team, and I just sat there thinking, my goodness, like this is it, like this is what you're meant to do, and this is where you're meant to be, and everything's going to be all right, and this is, and so yeah, it was kind of that day after it was surreal that it had all happened, and it's not just that it happened at Carson-Newman. And that's what made it all so special for me. It was at my alma mater, a place that I love so much and support and still continue to support. And but yeah, no, the day after, it certainly hit me when I was sat there coaching little club soccer, and I thought, my goodness, here we go. This is my career now, coaching.
And it takes off pretty quickly. 3 years in, an okay regular season, but one of the all-time great postseason runs in 2013. A run to the national title game. You fall 2-1 to the Southern New Hampshire Pinmen, but beat 3 top 15 clubs on the way to playing for the national title. You finished third in the league. You lost in the quarterfinals of the SAC tournament to Mars Hill. When did you get the sense that something special was happening that year?
There's a lot in this that people probably don't know about other than the players. So we'll just recap it anyway, and it'll probably show you how, I was still learning as a coach, but, throughout the season, we had a great team first and foremost. And I felt like we brought in a lot of new players, and it's always difficult to gel. And we had a large squad. We always did. And that was a kind of driving factor even at Carson. We had to have the larger squads and whatever. So anyway, we go through the season, and you had the sense that we were underachieving. And then when things started picking up, it was towards that tail end of the season, we started looking really good. We beat a Queens at home, and things were looking really, really good. And then at that point, the girls' team I was coaching, they were doing well too. So both teams are now going to the SAC tournament. One's got to go away and the other one's going to go home. And so I reworked the games. I think I remember talking to you, trying to make it all work to where I could be in two places on the same day. And we had it all figured out. And then my two captains at the time, I won't mention their names, but I still keep in touch with them to this day, had said, well, we don't want to play at that time. We won't do well. And then as a coach, well, what do? Arguably your best players are in your office now saying, well, we don't want to play at that time. So I said, no, you know what then? Yeah, you can play at this time. Francois Dubardeau, another legend who should be on this call. I don't know, his English is still probably horrific, but it's just that French accent.
We'll talk to him when he's jumping out of a plane.
Oh my goodness, that'd be a great call. But then I was just like, so Francois will take the team and I'll go with the girls. So sure enough, that's what happened that day. And you know, inside me, in my head, I was just like, you know what? Yeah, I hope they lose. You know, genuine. And that sounds awful. That's my own team. But I felt like at the time, I wanted them to understand that it didn't matter where we played. It didn't matter when we played. It was just a matter of the game. It has to be done, and we get it done, right? These are so we went to the girls. I think we lost 4-1 at LR. We'd scored in the first minute of the game to be winning 1-0, and then we just got pummeled. And then, of course, I'm upset with that, and then I'm coming home, and the boys have lost. So now there's kind of the mixed emotions, but that could have jeopardised that tournament run for the national tournament. And again, I think we beat Anderson regular season last game 3-2. Is that right?
That's correct. Good job.
Coming back
in overtime.
Yeah, in overtime, I think like Matthias Bacchierson was involved, or Ross Frame scored it, I don't know, but those wins at the tail end had kind of propelled us to go into the national tournament. But then to lose at to Marshall at home 1-0, I was really unsure as to where we would have been with the rankings. And of course, when it came out that we were in, I think it was a shock to us all. But then the boys were all so grateful. And then that saying of anyone, anywhere, anytime, that was the model moving forward. And we just didn't care who we played, where we played, or what time we played. And that became the running joke, you know.
I think the feeling in the tournament, too, was because you had Rumwald Lake Wavell in goal, all you needed was a draw, because if you went to penalties, you had such an elite keeper, you had a chance. Special kid, special goalkeeper for sure. And I'd say he's up there with Tyler Baldock in terms of the quality. And, of course, when being a master's student, he had that experience and that maturity and that those leadership qualities. But, yeah, no, I agree with that. He was somebody that you knew if you'd always be in a game. If you could find a goal somewhere, he'd be good to keep a clean sheet for you. Or again, like you said, if we went to penalties, you know. And, in fact, so much so at Lander, when we beat Lander in penalties, Rumwald said to everybody before we're getting ready to take him, he's just like, hey, you guys just do your job, I'll save him. And he made everybody believe, like, just put the ball, I'll save a penalty. I'll win the game here for us. And it was just like, you know, and of course, sure enough, that's what he did. I think we did the play of the decade last summer during the middle of the pandemic. The thing that was astounding to me, going back through some of the footage from that year, the quality of the goals that were scored in that 2013 season. Nick Skoda chipping the keeper against Rollins in the national quarters. You can't talk about a goal without talking about what Joao Pedro Dowsley does in the national semifinals against Simon Fraser. From that year, again, just the overall quality of play throughout. Is there one that sticks out to you? That aside from probably the obvious one of Joao's going 5-hole through a defender and beating the keeper in the 88th minute against Simon Fraser to win.
Yeah, I'll tell you which one stands out still is Ross Frame's second goal against Queens at home. I remember it was like we were so possession oriented and we had so much quality, like you alluded to, like we had Christian Speed, Ross Frame, Nick Skoda, Nico Knoll, Cinderello, like the list just keeps going on. Matthias Backy, Chris Trejo, Hurik Pereira, like, and in a year which was crazy because at the time we still weren't fully funded in scholarships. We'd lost Tristan Dafford to an ACL. Hurik's brother was ineligible for the season due to a transfer rule at the time. Marius Stalby had broken an ankle. Is that right?
Stalby didn't play. I don't remember what his injury was. I remember Stalby being hurt.
Him and Lucas Sakira broke their ankle. That's why we had to redo the surface. It was they both broke their ankle the same day at practice. So it was like 4 of your best players, and it's you can't explain it. It's just 4 of your top players done for the season, and you're like, what are we doing here? And then we go on this national tournament run. But yeah, the goal at Queen's, there was so much quality. The ball came in, I think, was scored, or someone did a little back heel, and Frame takes that touch and finishes from like the most ridiculous angle, and all that was amazing. But then it was just the reaction after that. You've got 11 bodies sprinting to the corner to just celebrate with each other, and that's when I'm just like, yeah, that's who we are, and that's what we're about. Like it was it's you get goosebumps thinking about it, but it was one of those, so you could see how much that it meant to everybody, and it was a special group. And you know, I thought we deserved to win it that year, not for me in my own selfish ways, but for the boys in the adversity that had overcome that year. They deserve to win it, but again, what a run and what a season they had.
Let's focus on the semifinals against Simon Fraser. Tournament that year, the semifinals and title game that year played in Georgia, I believe, just outside of Augusta and Aiken.
Yeah,
Evans, Georgia. Decent drive from Mossy Creek, but the support. There was a tailgate beforehand. A bunch of alums from the 90s came out in support of Carson-Newman playing in the semifinals and the title game. What did that mean to you as a former player and as a coach to have a litany of old Eagles come out and be in attendance for those games?
The video that you guys put on YouTube is amazing. We're still missing Ross Frame's goal, by the way, on that.
I know. But, you know why? Because Blake McKinney and I were trying to get highlights to Knoxville in time for whatever newscast it was, and we were off sending out highlights. And yeah, missed Frame's first goal of the second half because the internet was slow. He's
playing pro in Australia. He's got it on his highlight footage on YouTube.
I'll have to find it. Yeah.
But that video is amazing because you see all the people and you see the faces from throughout the program. And if it hadn't been for them, we couldn't have been where we're at. And there's some Ryan Williams is in the crowd there, like one of the all-time scorers, you know. And there's just some special people there. And I think when Alan had left, there was this kind of animosity towards the program. There was hey, we've lost a guy who's won us all. So this was our first real chance as a program to win those people back, I think. And I think that was also part of the reason why David Barger had hired me. It was because, well, you're a familiar face. You'd worked with Alan. You've got that good relationship with Alan. Could we win the people back over? And so when we got to that game, it meant so much that the faces returned and they wanted to be a part of the success. And they realised that the program is bigger than any one individual. Alan was amazing. And if he had not left, I would never have had my job. But again, when I left, the program still goes on, and we got to support it with Stephen Lyons and Simon Duffy. Like, that's the way that it is. Like, we all got to support the program. And so, yeah, listen, it meant the world. And to have my wife and kids down there and just to have all it was amazing. It was amazing. It felt a lot like a home game at times, to be honest with you.
You look at that game, back and forth affair, and then the 88th minute game winner. What's going through your head in those moments on a long ball? I think Trejo threw it in, and maybe Sinney passed it through, and Joel just slots it home.
Yeah, no, Speaksy, I think, was the one that ends up doing it. But it's, I'll tell you honestly what was going through my head. The momentum shifted because we were down 1-0, 1-1, we were up 2-1, then it went to 2-2, but then I could see a lot of the Simon Fraser boys cramping. I could see a lot of the boys that were coming off on the sidelines, struggling to get ready to go back in. They were being asked to get ready to go, and guys that couldn't. And so at 2-2, I was looking at Francois, and I was like, hey, if we go to extra time here, we could either steal one or keep it in 0-0. I don't think they'll be able to make a push. And if we can go to penalties, I felt, again, like you had said, we felt confident with Rummy. And so I felt like, although the momentum had shifted, I felt like, they were starting to fade. And again, a lot of things that year happened well for us. We remember when we went down to Rollins, there was like this winter storm or whatever came through, and they were all wearing Under Armour, and we just come out of Tennessee where it had been snowing, whatever. So the weather was perfect for us. Then we go to Evans, Georgia, and you got a team coming down from Canada where they're in the freezing cold, and all of a sudden there's this heat wave. And so now all their players are cramping, and I'm like, this is amazing. But again, the mentality of the group, I'm trying to tell Trejo to slow down, and he's picked the ball up, thrown it in, and we've gone and scored. But that's just the group that were just, they wanted to keep going and going and pushing. And so, yeah, that going through my head, I was getting ready for extra time and penalties. That's honestly what I was getting ready to do.
You, at the same time, you alluded to it, you're coaching the women too, which still, to this day, I think is one of the crazier things that anybody's ever done. You and the old Lincoln Memorial coach, Helio, only guys, to my knowledge, to coach both men and women at the same time. You were a year into your head coaching career for the men when the opportunity comes up to take over the women's program. Obviously, a little bit of a cash boost, but outside of that, why undertake something so crazy?
Well, there's a lot to it. A little bit of a cash boost. Yeah, it was a little bit of a cash boost. Yeah, I think I got a couple of free meals in the cafeteria every now and then. The truth was I always wanted to go into the women's side of the game. I always wanted to. I felt like there was more opportunities that would present themselves in the women's side of the game. So for the longevity of a career in coaching, I looked at it as, okay, if I'm on the women's side, then more jobs will present themselves. I could probably move up the ranks sooner and get myself to, and ultimately that's what I always wanted, was to coach at the highest level. And even today, I want to coach at the highest level possible. I want to be, we want to challenge to win a national championship. We want to be, in the college cups. Like that for me is a dream for my coaching goals, if you would. But so going on to the women's side, it just made sense for me to take it. And then even then, I didn't feel like there was much of an option at the time, because things happened so quickly, and some things had happened that summer which started to suggest that something was going on. And and I don't want to get into it too much, right? And so, but anyway, what I would say is, then 2 weeks before the season, now all of a sudden, this opportunity presents itself to coach 2 programs. Well, I'm thinking, well, I'll get us through the year and we'll have a conversation, and it'll be a kind of, hey, pick one. Well, then the first year goes by, and then the second, and the third, and then I'm like, right, wait a minute, this is actually manageable. Like, I'm able to, and if anything, at the time, it probably helped us fiscally, because when we were scheduling games at the same location for both teams, and so now we're paying for one bus, and so financially now we had a budget that could help us be a bit more effective. So we were buying things like GPS units that other people didn't have. Like, we were going into 2013 having a GPS system that only us and the Seattle Seahawks had at the time. And so we were able to do these things, and it helped. Then I started realizing, right, well, wait a minute, this is not only benefiting me financially too, but it's benefiting the team financially, and it's benefiting the players, because we're all getting more, and we could get more equipment, whatever else. And so, and then even, sharing the equipment, like, we were able to share the equipment, that saved us a fortune. And so we were just able to create a way more professional environment. And so, but 3 or 4 years into it, and you're recruiting now for both teams. And I mean, we had a lot of internationals, we had a lot of bodies. I mean, I remember one year, I think we had like 76 players or something between both programs. And I'm just like, this is crazy. But at the time it made sense. And I was more than happy to do it, because I love Carson-Newman. And if I was doing something good for the university, I wanted to keep doing it. If I was hurting the university, then I would have hoped somebody would have told me, yeah, come on, let's get it. Let's fix this properly here.
I still think 2015 is probably one of the crazier years for soccer out there, at least for you as an individual. Coach of the year for both the men and the women. The men's team had a fair amount of success. Obviously, if you're making a national title game, but your women's teams, you're coming off of a 3-win season in 2014, and mercy, the influx of talent to go from 3 wins to 19 wins. Both teams win SAC titles. Both teams go to the NCAA tournament. Obviously, playing for a national title is one thing, but the overall success of both programs in 2015. How'd you do it? Well,
it wasn't just me. That's the thing. It wasn't just me. there's a lot of people, even yourself. Like, that's like, we had a lot going on, but you've got Eddie Carter doing compliance, helping us get all the kids eligible and where we need to be. Francois Dubardeau, Davey Campbell, Marissa, like all these people. I mean, I can't even remember who our trainers are. I think Peter Knight was our, like, yeah, just all these people here that were helping and making this possible and managing it. And yeah, maybe I get the credit for the coach of the year, but I never see it as a coach of the year award. I always look at it as a staff of the year. I always think that it's never just one person. And so the awards were amazing, but again, I think it was more so just a reflection of the people that we had at Carson-Newman and everybody chipping in to try and help each other. And so that, listen, it was always my goal to win with both programs. Whether it was we won a program or both, we were going to win. We were going to win. There was no other way. We had to win. We had to get Carson-Newman women's soccer back to the top of the conference, like Phil McNamara had, and the program deserves, and the program should be there. And then same with the men, we need to be on top, and enough of Wingate dominance, and I was over it, and so for us it was like and if you remember 2013 to 14, I brought in the best squad I think I've ever had in 2014, and yet it was an awful season for us after the national tournament, and we brought in, and a big part of that was losing our Ross Frame that year, but then in 2015, you get them back together, and both teams we were the best team in the conference, hands down. In every, I mean, we beat Wingate 4-1 at home the same week that we beat Young Harris 3-0 at home. Both teams were nationally ranked at the time, and I'm just like, we've just got such a special group. And then on the men's and the women's, I've still got the video on my phone, actually, Alex Brandon's father video but we both go to Coker that year, and the girls had already won it, and I think that we had to win it just to be the outright champions. And we were at Coker the Friday night practicing, or I think Friday night, and Tusculum tied Wingate, which then meant if we were to have beat Coker the next day, we'd win it. And of course, when that happened, we just knew it was going to all fall into place. And the video, I've got both teams on the field celebrating right after the men's game. Just that was the culture that they had. They were all so happy for each other and the success of the program. And yeah, it's the best video I've ever received on my phone. But it's, again, goosebumps, one of those moments where you've got 32 kids or whatever it is on the field just celebrating the success of the university.
You think about going from 3 wins to 19. Obviously, the roster was upgraded. Jules Harity comes into the program. Warren Ness was the SAC Freshman of the Year and goes on to a professional career. How quickly did that come about on the women's side to go from a 3-win team to a nationally ranked team and a team that was hosting a regional?
You have to always be careful how you answer these questions. It's when I took the women's program over, it was in a bad place. There was a lot of things that maybe, let's say a bad place. Let me back up there. It's not how I would have done things, and I just inherited a program where I was like, right, well, I got to get my spin on this thing as quickly as possible. But at the same time, it was trying to give the student athletes an amazing experience and an enjoyable experience. You had girls that had been through, 2 different coaches prior to me getting there now. And so it's like, right, well, what do you do? Well, the job was simple, and the job description was keep them happy, love on them, look after them, coach them, help them. So that's what we did. And we tried our best to keep people happy, and we tried our best to, but unfortunately, and this is important for me, my record took a beating in the women's game for the first 3 years. But again, the point was for me to look after them all and to help them understand. But then in order to grow the team, we just had to move in a different direction. And this is the hard part about college recruiting and college soccer and college athletics is sometimes the only way to get better is to bring in better people. And that's where we were. That's where we were. Like, we just had a team that wasn't ready to win the South Atlantic Conference. And it's that simple. And it's not to be mean. And it's not that's the difference. That's why you have a 3-win season and a 19-win season. We did nothing different. I probably put in less effort for a team that's winning than I did for a team that's losing. And that's maybe cliche, but that's the truth. And so we didn't do anything different. We brought in the right players. And with that, I felt like we did a good job bringing in the right people. people that understood the mission of Carson-Newman, people that understood Jefferson City, people that understood what the school was about, and they maybe, and listen, we had kids from every walk of life, but the kids understood and respected and appreciated and loved to be a part of Carson-Newman, and that was that simple.
I think the same thing is true of those of your last two women's teams as that 2013 men's team. You look at the roster, in hindsight at least, and good Lord, I mean, Jules Harity didn't go on to a professional career, but she's now the head coach at Auburn Montgomery. Clearly knows her stuff in the world of soccer. Lauren Wade, absolutely phenomenal professional career playing in the UK. Hayda Ragney has spent time playing in the pros. Varnes, I think still in Norway playing professionally. Helen Seed playing professionally. You've got half of your starting lineup that has some role either coaching or playing in professional soccer. And that's just bonkers to think about at this level.
Yeah, no, it is, but it's, and all those kids, everyone's got their own story, but Lauren Wade came to us because of Jules Harity. Mm-hmm. Jules Harity came to us because of Nicky McWilliams. Nicky McWilliams came to us because Tiarna McKenna. Tiarna McKenna came because Carol Bones recruited Tiarna. So you start looking at everyone's recruiting each other and just based off the experiences and even like the Varren Ness, like I think Sarah Tompkins recruited Varren, but it was just this idea that was bigger than me. Like everybody was pulling strings and trying to make things happen, but we tried to recruit players understanding that we could create a culture or cultivate them to be a pro. We wanted girls to train and the boys to train to want to go on and be pros. It may or may not happen. It will happen for a small percentage, but the most important thing was that we're going to get their degree, and there's nowhere else in the world that soccer and education ties hand in hand. They're usually competing against one another. Do one, forego the other. And so this idea of the US scholarship system was easier to sell for these international players that we've talked about here, but they were always well aware that the idea and hope from us as a coaching staff was to coach them to the point to where they could go on and go pro. And that was always something that we wanted to keep that dream alive for these kids, because, you train hard and you work hard and good things will happen. It doesn't always work that way, but it did for a lot of these kids. But again, the most important thing, they all got their degree at the end of the day before they went on to pursue their careers.
I want to focus a little on the women's program and kind of the similar question to your playing career and coaching for the men. When did you feel in 2015 that something special was happening and that things were turning around in a direction where Carson-Newman women's soccer was back to an elite program at a national level?
Pre-season. The first week of pre-season, you recruit all these players, and then you always had the saying around the hallways there in the student centre. You'd always say, "Yeah, we will look good on paper." You just wait till they get here. So we got them all in the first week of pre-season. We did, like I said, we didn't do too much different from the year before, but we started doing the drills that we do and trying to coach them the way that we want to coach them. And within the first day, you start to realise, wait a minute, Lauren Wade has scored more goals in practice today than we scored in games and practices all last year. It's just, and then there's this just buzz about it. And then, of course, you start to look at how they're all hanging out together and talking. And, you got that sense right at the get-go, right from day one when you took the field together. And on the boys' side, you got players like James Ward that was there at the time and a captain and a leader and somebody that was just clued in, good head on their shoulders. But again, both programs so supportive of each other and their success. And so that's when you could see it week one, the boys had to go train maybe on the practice football field. The girls got to train on the game field. Well, no questions were asked as to why, who got to train where, none. And it wasn't this, well, we can only train here because that's when we're good. No, it was this whole hey, this is what needs to happen for us to be successful. So again, it was the belief and the trust in us as a staff and each other as players. Yeah, the first week you could tell they were going to win something.
Go back to 2013 with the men's program. That was your first time that you beat your mentor, Alan Vitale. Did it in overtime, 1-0 at Tusculum. What was what goes through your head as you hand the guy that brought you stateside, gave you your first job, and in your third try, you get a win over him in dramatic fashion?
This is one of these moments in your coaching career that I wish if I could go back, I would have done it a little bit differently. So I was worked up for that game, as you can imagine, because I wanted to beat Alan. I wanted to prove that hey, I've learned from you, and now I'm going to beat you. There was one time that when Alan was our coach at Carson-Newman, we went to Tusculum and we beat Tusculum, and it was overtime. I think Brad Cobbs had scored it, and we went running. They have that. They play in the football stadium. For people who don't know, they play in the football stadium, and they have this little bush that's right in front of the brick wall that leads into the stands. And when we had scored, we all knew before the game we were going to run through those bushes and get up on the wall and start jumping around and dancing and acting the fool. And we had that plan. And so this game's now leading up, and I'm like, well, hey, boys, if we win through the bushes, we'll get on the wall and we'll all start celebrating, because I knew Coach would hate it. I knew he would hate it, and that would be like the nail in the coffin. And sure enough, we scored the goal, and we've got the boys, and I'm like, no, don't do it, and start to think this is a bad idea. Too late, too little, too late, and the boys are through the bushes, are on the wall, and but that meant so much for me to want to do that. For a lot of reasons, I think, for a lot of reasons, because I have so much respect for Alan, and it's just trying to prove that, well, can you actually coach against who I would say is one of the best coaches in Division 2 men's soccer, Alan Vital, and then, yeah. And there's a genuine dislike of Tusculum. And so, and that'll never, ever go away. And so forget Alan, just to beat Tusculum at Tusculum, yeah, there's, for anybody listening, I don't know where along the lines this LMU rivalry's got bigger than the Tusculum is the true rivalry between the two schools. LMU's tried to nestle. LMU were in a different conference. They're going, Tusculum is the big rivalry. So any future players that come to play at Carson-Newman, Tusculum's a rivalry game.
Well, this is
not LMU.
This is the clip I'll cut up to promote this, and we'll make sure that this gets aired prior to. I also remember telling Alan at the end of that hey, the apprentice beat the sorcerer today, but yeah, he was happy. But listen as well, he was happy for me. He was happy, and he's a competitor, and he was happy that we won, and he was very, very supportive of everything, and so that and he's a Carson-Newman person. That says a lot. Let's go to 2016 in December. Maybe lift the veil a little bit. You had the opportunity to go to South Alabama, and you kind of alluded to it early, but it was a decision that weighed on you a little bit. I can remember some. I
cried so much that day.
Yeah, you wrestled with it a little bit. An emotional time.
Yeah, no, it was tough because I knew it was the right thing to do. I knew it hands down, but yet I was still convincing myself that I had to stay. There was more to be done at Carson-Newman. For anybody that decides to waste their time listening to this, I appreciate you doing it, but I wanted to win a national championship at Carson-Newman so bad. Not for me, for the school. The school had given me so much. I want to do something monumental for this school, like whatever it could be. And maybe I did. I don't know. But again, it's like there was just so much that you wanted to do for the program. And so when I was leaving, I felt like there was still things that were unfinished. We hadn't done what I knew we could do. I still believe to this day, Stevie Lyons and Simon Duffy, not to put pressure, can go on and win a national championship at Carson-Newman. Can. We have the facilities, we have the resource. I genuinely believe that. But yeah, I wrestled with it a lot because I had such great teams. I had great people like yourself. I mean, I met my wife there. Alan Morgan was the AD at the time. Dr. Randall O'Brien was the president. And I think that the timing of it all as well for me was more so, I knew that those two guys who are very, very special people to me, Alan Morgan and Dr. O'Brien, I knew they didn't have much longer left at Carson-Newman. And so when they left, if they had left, I was always scared, like, what could happen? Somebody could come in and say, well, you're only going to coach one team now and not two. Then I have to choose one over the other. And it was also getting to the point where I needed the school to realise that travelling both teams together, although it was saving money and it was working out well, they were both independent programs, and they were getting to a point now where they had so much success that they needed to be separated and they needed to have their own budgets. And I needed the school to realise, well, we got to fund soccer maybe a little bit better. So maybe the best thing for me to do is to leave, and then they can realise, wait a minute, how was he doing this? Like, how could he? So there was a lot that went into it, but hands down, it was the hardest decision I've ever had to make, and that's only because I love Carson-Newman so much.
Did you, in 2017, have any, I don't want to say regret, but
yes, if we're talking about the national championship run, I've never been so back. I was like a tennis match that day. I was a tennis match. I was like, oh my gosh, if they win it, I'm jumping off a bridge. If they, but then, honestly, but then I started to realize, like, push ego aside, push everything. Like, I couldn't have been happier for Simon and the girls, especially. Simon's a good friend of mine, but the girls that were on that team, Jackie Barnes, Lauren Wade, they're just Avery Williams, my goodness. Like, the list goes on and on. Like, I was so excited for them. And I followed every game. I watched every game. I couldn't stop. And even, and I'm being honest with you, even when I was down here for my first year and we were doing so well down here at South, there was a big part of me still there at Carson-Newman, and it was hard to watch, more so because I wasn't, and again, being selfish, I wasn't on the sideline to be there with the girls and to but again, if I was on the sideline, we probably don't go to a national final. So again, like, that's what people used to say, yeah, but it's your team. And I'm like, well, no, it's not my team. It's Simon's team. Because if it was his team, that would have meant that everything that I did in 2017 here would be null and void, because that was someone else's team. So I'm just like, no, it was tennis match is the best way to describe it. Back and forth. It was awful.
You've had a fair share of success at South Alabama. I think lost your first four games as a coach. But then won a title your first year in the tournament, coming off of a tournament title this year in an NCAA tournament appearance. What principles that you learned while at Carson-Newman guide what you do daily with the Jaguars?
Simple. Faith. It's that easy. Like, for me, I get in every morning, I come in and I read my coach's Bible, which actually, funnily enough, I think I got from FCA at Carson-Newman. But I think for me, it's just never navigating away from that and trying to stay right in the middle. And this all sounds cliche, but there has to be a foundation. There has to be something that is guiding your values and your principles. And for me, it's always going to be that. It's always going to be that. I think that for me, there's a bigger picture. There's a bigger picture. Look at world football right now. Let take a little twist to the right, because you say I talk a lot, so I will. But look at what's going on in the Euros. Christian Eriksen died on the field the other day, and you look at everything that's going on there. But then in that whole, like, I get it, like the leadership of the captain and everything. I've never been in so much shock with the rest of the world. But you just realise that this isn't really about football. Like, football doesn't matter at the end of the day, or soccer. And so for me, it's the experiences that your players have. It's the memories that they have. Are they still talking about their time in college 10, 15 years from now? Are they learning did they learn from their time under your supervision? Did they grow as individuals? And listen, funny, I'll say it because he won't mind me saying it, but Rumwald, I kicked Rumwald out of practice more than anybody. More than anybody. And I remember I was down here and I got a text from him. I just wanted to say thank you so much for helping me grow up as an individual. I deserve to be kicked out, and you did it, and I appreciate that. And it's like, and so for me, like, that hits home, and that so again, I think when it all comes down to it, you all come back to your faith and what do you stand for, what do you believe in, what's your moral compass as a coach, and what's your guiding principles and values. And And I think if you can't change from that, tactics and everything else can change, but you can't change from that. And that's important. Sometimes we do. We get lost and we get caught up in success and everything else and loss. But I think for me, it just keeps coming back to, look, national tournament semi-final, Simon Fraser, we win. Had like 125 text messages. Southern New Hampshire, we lose. I have like 3 text messages. It's the people that the people that you care about, and the people that love you, and the people that are there for you, and yeah. So for me, there's a lesson in there, and I think that for me, you gotta figure out where your happiness comes from. You gotta figure out where your ideas and everything come from, and derive from that. So.
Richard, that's a wonderful note to end on. Congratulations. This is the longest podcast that we've shot. Yeah, we knew that was going to happen when we brought you on. But great catching up with you. Stupendous to see you have continued success with the South Alabama Jaguars. And thanks for joining us.
Thanks, man. I apologize for everyone. Nobody's listened to the whole thing anyway, so unless you got a long car drive.
I'll get you with the analytics and prove you wrong there. But that's
this podcast can get you to Tusculum and back. you can listen to this both ways.
If you want to go a little bit longer, we can get you all the way to Coker if you want that. But Moody, thanks for the time. Blast catching up as usual. Thanks, that man. Is South Alabama head women's soccer coach Richard Moodie, former Eagle head men's and women's soccer coach Richard Moodie. I'm the voice of the Eagles, Adam Cavalier. This has been another Mossy Creek Conversation. Thanks for joining us.